Hey, you're watching NASA TV, on the air and online every day, on this planet and beyond.
It's a beautiful sunny afternoon at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where a NASA astronaut and Russian cosmonaut are aboard a Soyuz spacecraft 160 feet atop a Soyuz booster, ready to launch a little less than an hour from now at 2:13 a.m. this morning Central Time, 1:13 p.m. local time in Baikonur. This is a live view of that Soyuz rocket at Site Number 1, the Launchpad in Baikonur. Team of launch controllers watching over all systems aboard the rocket, which is now fully fueled and ready for launch. No issues been tracked throughout the day, which began with that fuel and oxidizer loading at about 9:13 p.m. Central Time last night, or 8:13 in the morning in Baikonur this morning, and was completed about 2 hours later. Vehicle's control systems have been prepared and the gyroscopes have been activated. But good morning, everybody, from the International Space Station Flight Control Room. This is Mission Control Houston. I'm Dan Hewitt, and I'll be taking you along for the ride. And along with flight control teams around the world supporting the space station program here in Mission Control, team watching over the Expedition 51 crew and all the station systems, preparing to support the increase from 3 to 5 crew members later today, with the addition of NASA astronaut Jack Fisher and Russian cosmonaut Fyodor Yurchikhin representing Roscosmos. These two are about to begin a planned single-day flight to the International Space Station, with docking scheduled just 6 hours after launch at 8:23 a.m. Central Time, 7:23 p.m. in Baikonur, where colleagues, friends, and family of the Soyuz crew members will be watching the events unfold. And the Soyuz MS-04 spacecraft is going to be docking with the Poisk module, which is also known as MRM-2, and it's a port that faces towards the space-facing side over on the Russian segment of the station. And they're going to be joining the current station residents on board, and that's comprised of Expedition 51 Commander Peggy Whitson and flight engineers Oleg Novitsky and Thomas Pesquet. And those three are now in their 5th month aboard the station, having arrived back on November 19th of last year. And today's launch only holding 2 crew members aboard the Soyuz instead of the standard 3. That following a decision made by Roscosmos to reduce the number of cosmonauts on the station until the arrival of the Nauka Russian multi-purpose module, or the MLM, that's scheduled to fly either late this year or early next. The arrival of the MLM will increase the amount of science experiments available for cosmonauts to perform on the station's Russian segment. And the one thing that resulted from that reduction in crew size is an extension of the mission of Expedition 51 Commander Peggy Whitson by 3 months. And she was originally scheduled to return with Novitsky and Pesquet aboard Soyuz MS-03 this June, but she'll now be returning aboard MS-04 along with Fisher and Yurchikhin in September. And then, meanwhile, here in Houston tonight, the team in Mission Control is going to be monitoring tonight's launch, getting updates on the flight from their Russian counterparts. Today's flight director is going to be TJ Creamer. He's at the bottom of your screen there, just coming on with the Orbit 1 team. He's being assisted by flight director Brian Smith, standing just behind, and flight director Anthony Vareja, who is doing the Orbit 3 shift overnight, just getting ready to hand over to the oncoming team. And we'll see a couple of Capcoms at that position, serving as the communication link between the team here on the ground. Right now you can see Andreas Mogensen of the European Space Agency and Leslie Ringo of NASA. And during the Soyuz's climb to orbit, tracking and telemetry is downlinked to ground stations along the flight path and is routed to the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. Right now, though, we are just under 54 minutes and 30 seconds away from the launch of the Expedition 51 crew to the station. This mission is launching under the call sign Olympus, which was chosen by the Soyuz commander Fyodor Yurchikhin to represent the name of the tallest known mountain in the solar system, and the similarities Yurchikhin has noted in the endeavor of building the International Space Station. Olympus is the same call sign that he's used on his previous 2 flights as Soyuz commander aboard Soyuz TMA-19 back in 2010 and Soyuz TMA-09M in May of 2013. And then the talisman that you'll see floating over the crew members today is one of a number of small dolls. Here you can see a picture taken of Fisher and Yurchikhin. Fisher has a rainbow star symbol from the University of Texas MD Anderson Children's Cancer Hospital in Houston, where one of his younger daughters received life-saving medical treatment. And for Fyodor Yurchikhin, he'll have 2 small dogs that are going to be given to young Russian hospital patients, and a small toy dog that was given to him more than 30 years ago by his high school teacher as a symbol of good luck. And when we get these in-cabin views, you'll actually be able to see that floating there just in front of the 2 crew members. And with 1 rookie astronaut and 1 spaceflight veteran launching today to the International Space Station. First, the rookie, NASA astronaut Jack Fisher, who's serving as the Soyuz flight engineer in the left seat. And he'll be venturing into space for the first time today. He's a native of Louisville, Colorado, and holds a bachelor's degree in astronautical engineering from the U.S. Air Force Academy and a master's degree in aeronautics and astronautics from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Colonel Fisher is also a U.S. Air Force command pilot with more than 3,000 flight hours and more than 45 types of aircraft, including the F-15 and F-22 fighter jets. He was selected back in July 2009 as a member of the 20th NASA astronaut class and completed astronaut candidate training in July 2011. And he'll be serving as a flight engineer for Space Station Expeditions 51 and 52. And with that time, he'll be joined by veteran Russian cosmonaut Fyodor Yurchikhin, who's actually making his 5th trip into space today. His first flight was aboard STS-112 shuttle Atlantis to the station, a mission that installed the starboard 1 truss as part of the station's assembly. His next space flight was aboard Soyuz TMA-10 in 2007 to the station, where he spent 6 months on board as commander of Expedition 15. Yurchikhin then returned to the station 3 years later aboard Soyuz TMA-19, served as a flight engineer of Expeditions 24 and 25, added another 2 spacewalks to his cumulative record. And then his last trip to station was aboard Soyuz TMA-09M back in May of 2013, serving as Expedition 36 flight engineer and the commander of Expedition 37. Yurchikhin will transition from a flight engineer of Expedition 51 to the commander of Expedition 52 in June after the departure of Oleg Novitsky and Thomas Pesquet. For now, Yurchikhin has 8 spacewalks on his resume, more than 537 days spent in space. And then, interestingly enough, this will be Yurchikhin's 3rd time aboard station with NASA's Peggy Whitson. He crossed paths with her during STS-112 and Expedition 5 back in 2002, and again during Expedition 15 and 16 in 2007. And we're still on track for an on-time liftoff today. Again, that's at 2:13 a.m. Central Time, 1:13 p.m. Baikonur time. Everything proceeding smoothly with the countdown so far. During the climb up to orbit, tracking and telemetry from the Soyuz vehicles downlinked to ground stations along the flight path, and then routed to the launch control bunker near the launch pad in Baikonur, and then over to the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow. This is a live view from one of the balcony cameras in there. The flight's controlled from the bunker until shutdown of the 3rd stage engine on the Soyuz rocket, when it's then transitioned to the Russian Flight Control Center. And then just seconds after the Soyuz reaches orbit, the vehicle's command and control system will be activated. A number of stored computer commands will deploy navigation and communication antennas, and the solar arrays will be deployed to collect power for use by the onboard batteries, generating electricity for all of the Soyuz systems. The first antennas to be deployed will be the Core's rendezvous and docking antennas, which will be used to provide automatic range and rate of closure information on the final approach for the Soyuz for its docking. Immediately after reaching orbit, the crew will oversee all of these programmed activations and a sequence of a variety of systems coming online before the spacecraft passes out of range of Russian ground stations. Those systems include the spacecraft's power supply system, radio communication system, and its critical motion control system. And then during the first orbit of today's flight, the Soyuz will automatically execute the first 2 of several orbital adjustment burns that are planned as the vehicle fine-tunes its path on its way to the International Space Station. And today's launch will mark the 4th flight of the newer updated Soyuz modernized system, or MS series of vehicles.
To the moon. Let me play up there with those stars. Let me see.
The crew was awakened at about 5:13 p.m. Central Time yesterday evening, or 4:13 in the morning local in Baikonur, which is just about 9 hours prior to the launch. And then they participated in all of their final pre-launch activities. One of the first things they did was the long-standing tradition where they signed the doors in the Cosmonaut Hotel in Baikonur, Kazakhstan. For Fisher, this was his first chance to sign one of the doors. This is the hotels where all of the crews stay in the weeks, about 2 weeks leading up to the launch.
You and all of yours.
Following that, they receive a blessing from a Russian Orthodox priest, another long-standing tradition for Soyuz crews. The priest also blesses the rocket itself, typically about a day or two before the launch, and then they're ready to do their final walkout. At about 8:13 p.m. Central Time yesterday evening, 7:13 in the morning in Baikonur, the crew departed the Cosmonaut Hotel. You can see the backup crew just behind them with NASA astronaut Randy Bresnik. And as they departed, they then boarded the bus for the ride from the hotel to the integration and suit-up facility at Building 254 actually on the grounds of the Baikonur Cosmodrome. And at this point in time, a lot of friends and family are gathered to start saying farewell, but this isn't the last time that they'll see these crew members before they load up into the Soyuz vehicle. There you can see Jack Fisher, the NASA astronaut's family members, his wife and 2 daughters there in Baikonur to support him just before this launch. And the crew arrived at Building 254. Again, this is the integration and suit-up facility to get into their Sokol launch and entry suits. Here you can see Jack Fisher being assisted by some of the suit technicians from Roscosmos and Energia. They arrived at 254 at about 8:58 p.m. Central Time last night, 7:58 in the morning in Baikonur. Each crew member undergoes final medical exams and then gets suited up in these Sokol launch and entry suits. These are the suits that all of the crew members wear for any of the dynamic activities in the Soyuz vehicle. So obviously during today's launch, they'll be wearing the suits for the duration. They'll typically get out of them if they're doing a 2-day rendezvous, but since this is a planned 6-hour, just 4 orbits of the Earth, they'll typically stay in their suits the whole time. So a lot of time spent in these suits for these crew members in those chairs. But they'll also be wearing these when they come home in September for all the landing operations. And these are able to be pressurized, provide life support to the crew members during all the dynamic phases of the Soyuz flight. And then following that suit up, each of the suits actually gets pressurized just to do a final checkout on the integrity of all of the various seals. And again, these suits get pressurized, so just in case there were some kind of compromise to the cabin atmosphere in the Soyuz, the suits would be able to keep the astronauts healthy and intact. But they go one by one into these chairs, and a set of engineers plug in various hoses to get these suits pressurized. You'll actually see them balloon up a little bit to show that they have a good pressure integrity, no leaks in the suits. And this is one of the final checkouts before they're ready to go and board into the Soyuz spacecraft. And this is also a chance, again, for the friends and family of the crew members to watch them go through these final suit-up activities, and then they get a chance to speak to them through the glass. You'll notice through a lot of these videos, the crew members kept away from the general population there in Baikonur, and all of the folks helping them out, wearing medical masks and things of that nature, as the crews are kept in a pretty much constant state of quarantine during their last 2 weeks before a flight, just to avoid any last-minute exposure to germs or sickness before they head into space. We already saw Fyodor Yurchikhin doing his final suit checks. This is a view of Jack Fisher. Again, this done several hours before launch, so quite a bit of time there. Randy Bresnik getting some shots. He's on the backup crew for Jack Fisher for this flight. Again, after those pressure checks, they're able to go up to the glass and via microphone talk to friends and family.
Okay, so I got a rule for you guys. And every infraction counts. You make me leak, it's $10. You make me cry, it's 50. So Mom, don't say that, you'll be proud. Got it? Everybody's happy.
You can sleep on the way. You can sleep on the way up.
My friend.
Oh. On TV. Yeah, use the micro. We'll see you on TV. Huh? Yeah, I understand what you're saying. A little better. Better. Just a fashion statement.
Just ran out of time. What you got?
Just cause.
Stuck to something.
All right, when you get out there, you gotta give Toma a big hug from back. Cool.
Okay.
We're all looking for the big swim out. Swim on in.
Okay.
Сейчас если фотография, она сегодня работает, она закрыта.
You want another one? Hey, hold.
You wanna do another one? Oh.
No.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys wanna all come up and stand by him? You guys can. Mark first.
Не, вот эту руку. Ага.
The other hand.
Ребятки, улыбаемся.
Kids, smile.
Забирайте.
Yep, then you do it. Go ahead.
Take that. No, I felt like that.
What?
I like to put one half now.
Oh, it's good. I can't explain it to him.
Again, following that chance to talk once more with friends and family who are in attendance for the launch. They get a chance to talk to a number of the managers from NASA and Roscosmos.
Everything will work out well. We would like to wish you successful work on board of the station. We're looking forward to seeing you back. We're always there to support you. We're always ready to help.
The ground teams are ready to support you. Have a great time, have a great launch, and take excellent care of Space Station 4.
Дорогие коллеги,
Dear colleagues,
экипаж может сказать, что выберет
we can say that you are winning with quality, not quantity. As is the tradition, I would like to wish you successful launch, successful work on board, and we're going to be looking forward to seeing you on the ground.
вашей подготовке,
So we're confident in your training,
способности команды.
in the capabilities of your team. We know you will do it. Wishing you a successful flight and successful docking. So all the very best. Thank you very much. So hope the landing is going to be during the day.
And once all those suit-up activities are complete, the pressure in the suits verified to be airtight, the crew gets ready to depart for the launch pad.
Your Sir Chairman of the Government Commission expedition is ready to launch. Crew commander, flight engineer, ready. Have a good flight.
So with that, they report to the head of the Russian State Commission, ready for launch, and then it's on their way to the pad. Jack Fisher and Fyodor Yurchikhin. The crew members boarded their bus at about 11:13 p.m. Central Time last night, 10:13 in the morning in Baikonur for the ride over to Launchpad number 1. Drive takes about 25 minutes. They were there by 10:38 in the morning over in Baikonur. They again greet members of management from Roscosmos and NASA one more time before making their way up the stairs to the elevator that'll take them to the top of the rocket and into their spacecraft.
Very good luck. Thank you. Everything will be fine.
And again, the crew members waved goodbye one more time before boarding the capsule, and then getting into the elevator, riding up to the top, and getting into the Soyuz. They've been on board now for about an hour and a half. The Soyuz rocket, you can see billowing oxygen, was fueled about 3 hours prior to launch. And we're back with a live view, 33 minutes, 20 seconds and counting away from today's launch. You can see a lot more of the rocket now. The Launchpad service structure components have lowered. The clamshell gantry service towers have been retracted, and all that being done in preparation for liftoff. At this point, suit leak checks are underway. The emergency escape system on board the Soyuz has been armed. That escape tower, which is the very tippy top of the rocket, would fire in the event of a problem during launch. System designed to pull the spacecraft and the crew clear of the booster, enabling the Soyuz capsule to parachute to a safe landing in the event of an emergency during the launch or early stages of the climb to orbit. Emblazoned upon this Soyuz rocket is an image celebrating the 60th anniversary this year of Sputnik, the first artificial Earth satellite, which launched aboard a modified R-7 rocket back on October 4th, 1957, from the very same launch pad that we're looking at live today. The Soyuz rocket itself stands 162 feet tall and weighs 680,000 pounds. Consists of the Soyuz MS-04 spacecraft inside a protective shroud at the top and the three-stage Soyuz FG booster below. The spacecraft was mated to its booster, and the three main stages were joined together back on Saturday. And then the entire rocket was transported by rail car to the launch pad at about 7 a.m. Baikonur time on Monday, then hoisted to its vertical position a short time later. Soyuz spacecraft, with its two crew members aboard, sits high above the three-stage of the Soyuz booster, which uses a mix of kerosene and liquid oxygen as the propellant. The first stage has 4 liquid engines strapped to the side of the core vehicle, and each of those burns for about 1 minute 58 seconds before they drop away. At that point, the rocket will already be 30 miles high and downrange from the launch pad of about 73 miles, traveling at over 3,900 miles per hour. The core engine of the first stage also serves as the second stage and continues to burn until 4 minutes 57 seconds into flight. This animation you're watching right now shows the early stages of that launch. First, the launch escape tower will jettison off from the rocket once it gets through the early phases, and then those 4 strap-on boosters will drop away. Again, this core engine serves as the second stage as well. The launch shroud will detach, and then shortly after that, the second stage will be done with its job. They do something called hot staging, actually having a lattice work structure between the 2 stages, where the third stage fires before the second stage drops away. The third stage has a single engine that will ignite just before that separation, and then helps to push it away, and then burns for another several minutes until 8 minutes 45 seconds into the flight. Then at that point, the Soyuz will be in its preliminary orbit of about 143 by 118 miles. All of those pre-programmed commands we talked about earlier will execute. The solar arrays and antennas will deploy. The crew members will begin their quick chase down of the International Space Station. This spacecraft, the Soyuz MS-04, is scheduled to dock the same day, so doing only 4 orbits of the Earth, or about 6 hours after today's launch until they arrive. Just 3 minutes and 27 seconds before the launch, the International Space Station will actually fly directly over the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Then at the time of launch, the station will be flying at an altitude of about 251 statute miles over the northeastern portion of Kazakhstan. And then today's launch is precisely timed for the moment when the Earth's rotation will place the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the plane of orbit for the International Space Station. At the time of the Soyuz spacecraft's orbital insertion, so after that ride uphill and the launch rocket falls away, it will take about 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and the station will already be about 2,175 miles ahead of the Soyuz as the rendezvous begins. Again, it's a planned 6-hour rendezvous that'll culminate with that docking to the Poisk module at 8:23 a.m. Central Time, 7:23 p.m. at Baikonur tonight, where again all of those Russian and American attendees, guests, and family will be watching, and they'll be able to watch the events unfold as Jack Fisher and Fyodor Yurchikhin dock to the station. Should any problems crop up, though, in the first 2.5 hours of the flight, the vehicle and its crew can default to a 2-day rendezvous, which would put the docking at 3:38 Central Time on April 22nd. And one note for everyone tracking all the vehicles in space, a 2-day Soyuz rendezvous would delay the rendezvous and grapple of the orbital ATK Cygnus OA-7 spacecraft, the SS John Glenn, which launched from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on April 18th, and is currently scheduled to link up with the station in the early morning hours of April 22nd. Cygnus, which is currently en route to the station, would defer its rendezvous and capture in the event of that 2-day Soyuz docking to Monday, April 24th. Top the rocket, the MS-04 vehicle, again, Jack Fisher and Fyodor Yurchikhin on board, 27 minutes, 20 seconds away from launch. The whole Soyuz spacecraft itself, 23.5 feet long, weighs in at 15,650 pounds, and is comprised of 3 different modules. The first one, the one that we'll pay the most attention to typically, is the descent module, situated in the middle of the Soyuz vehicle, and contains customized seats for each of the crew members during launch, entry, and landing. It contains all of the controls and displays necessary for the flight. Also has the life support systems, batteries for re-entry and landing, and the parachutes and the soft landing rocket engines to slow the vehicle just before touchdown when the Soyuz lands in Kazakhstan. There are 8 hydrogen peroxide thrusters located on the module that are used to control the spacecraft's orientation or attitude during the descent until the parachute deploys. Also has a guidance, navigation, and control system to maneuver the vehicle during the descent phase of the mission. The descent module weighs in at 6,393 pounds with a habitable volume of 141 cubic feet, so it's a pretty tight fit. Approximately 110 pounds of payload can be returned to Earth, and it's the only portion that does return to Earth. Up through a hatch, though, the orbital module is at the top, which connects via that pressurized hatch. It's where the crew has a small amount of room to move around during the flight to the station. It has a volume of 230 cubic feet. The docking mechanism, hatch, and rendezvous antennas located at the front end. The docking mechanism is used to dock with the station, and the hatch allows entry into the orbiting laboratory. Then the rendezvous antennas are used by the automated docking system, which uses radar to maneuver towards the station for docking. There's also a forward-looking window on the module that the crew can take manual measurements of the distance and the closing speed with a laser rangefinder in the event that they have any issues with that automatic rendezvous radar. Then the third and final one's the propulsion module, and it houses the oxygen storage tanks, the main engine, the attitude control thrusters, the avionics, and communications and control equipment. And the propulsion portion of this module handles all of the orbital maneuvers, including those that are needed for the Soyuz to catch up with the station, and also for the deorbit burn at the end of the spacecraft's mission. Before they're deployed, the two solar arrays are folded against the body of the propulsion module, which separates from the descent module after the deorbit burn, along with the orbital module. And the solar panels span almost 35 feet. And one important note, the entire spacecraft serves not only as a crew transport vehicle to and from the International Space Station, but also an emergency return vehicle in the event the crew should have to leave the station unexpectedly.
fact, I don't think I'll ever have as many hours in airplanes as I do in tractors, but after 6 months in space, hopefully I'll get a little closer. So I have been married twice, and in June, I'm gonna get married a third time to the same girl. When you have someone as awesome as my wife, you do everything you can to keep showing her every day that you want her around. So we're gonna actually renew our vows on our 20-year anniversary from orbit. I am a hopeless sap for romantic movies. My favorites are An Affair to Remember and Sleepless in Seattle, but pretty much we camp out in front of the Hallmark Channel every Christmas and Valentine's Day. It's pretty sad. I'm not a very big fan of sweets, so my wife actually makes me bean burritos smothered with green chili and cheese for my birthday. It's just like a restaurant that I used to go to as a kid named Senior T's, and she recreates it for every birthday. Puts the candle right there in the middle of the burrito. My favorite thing to do with my family is camping. We actually had a travel trailer for about 8 years, and those are the best memories I have with my family. Because when you go out into the nature, as my wife says, you have to unplug and you concentrate on each other. So they really are great memories, and I cannot wait until I'm a grandpa and I can kidnap my grandkids and take them camping.
And definitely be sure to follow Jack at those social media sites during his time on orbit. A group of NASA representatives are there in Baikonur, just a short distance away from the launch pad. For a quick update on activities there, why don't we go now to NASA Public Affairs Officer Rob Navius.
Dan, as the harsh winter of the Central Asian desert has yielded to spring, everything is in readiness for the first Soyuz launch of the year of a crew to the International Space Station. Here at Baikonur, preparations have gone exceedingly well for today's launch and the fast-track trip to the station by Yurchikhin and Fisher. NASA's delegation attending the launch is led by Bill Gerstenmaier, the Associate Administrator for Human Exploration, and Dan Hartman, the ISS Deputy Program Manager. A large Russian space industry delegation is also on hand, including the head of the Russian Federal Space Agency, Igor Komarov. It has been a long time since a Soyuz launch featured only 2 crew members. In fact, you would need to go back to April 2003, when Yuri Malenchenko, now a top manager at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, and NASA's Ed Lu launched as the Expedition 7 crew with an open seat on the Soyuz spacecraft. Today, it appears to be clear sailing for this 2-man crew, with temperatures in the mid-70s. The final minutes of this countdown tick off the clock. Again, we are all set for launch. And that's it now from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Dan, back to you at Mission Control in Houston.
And thanks again. That was NASA Public Affairs Officer Rob Navius with a quick report in from Baikonur, where we're getting continued live views of the rocket, just the clock counting down to the launch of the Soyuz MS-04 crew to the International Space Station. Now, though, before we get to the launch, let's take a moment once more to learn a little bit more about Jack Fisher and his road to becoming an astronaut.
Going through my whole life, I've never necessarily been the smartest guy or the fastest or the best pilot, but I could always outwork anybody. So I came from what was then a small town, Louisville, Colorado. The 5th generation of Fisher to grow up in that town, and everybody had been a contractor. You know, on the construction site, there's one goal, and that's to get the job done. So I was the smallest, the youngest of the 4 kids. Dad always said, well, you're not worth much on a shovel yet, but I'll put you in the Bobcat. I was always the kid who was driving the tractors and the trucks and the trailers and everything. And I was also the one who would upkeep them. At night, I would stay late and I would clean them and I would change the oil, and I loved my machines. And really that has followed me through certainly as a pilot and now as an astronaut, working with machines and being kind of in tune to how they're operating and what you need to do to get them at their peak efficiency. I think that has followed me my entire career. When I was 6, there's actually a picture of me and my siblings. So we're right next to the Saturn V. You know, I just looked up at this ginormous rocket and fell in love with the whole idea. I really chased that dream as I grew up and wanted to serve my country, went to the Air Force Academy. But it wasn't until my sophomore year at the Air Force Academy where it really became a passion. My dad was dying of cancer, and I had gone home kind of on his last bit of time, and I said, Dad, I'm going to come home. I want to help with the family company, and I just feel like I'm in the wrong place up there. He's like, man, your head has always been in the stars, and there's no way you're coming home. I dare you to dream. For me on the launch, you know, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to get to orbit, and as soon as, you know, everything deploys and we're happy, I'm going to look out that window and just take a little minute and enjoy that moment. I will be thinking about, probably thinking about Dad. He was gone before I became who I am. You wanted him to see you become something. And so, I'll be thinking of him. I'm Jack Fisher, and as an astronaut, I'm just one small part of the overall effort to explore space.
And then again, one more time, a look at Jack Fisher, who's going to be spending the next couple of months in space. He'll be a flight engineer of Expedition 51 and 52 before he comes home with Fiona Yurchikhin and Peggy Whitson this upcoming September. But for now, we're going to stick with our live views of the rocket on the pad there in Baikonur. Right now, we're under 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 37 seconds and counting to be exact until liftoff. Again, that's targeted for 2:13 and 44 seconds is the instantaneous launch time, 3:13 a.m. Eastern time. Soyuz vehicle, the gyros, the onboard flight data recorders will soon be activated. The rocket is fully fueled about 3 hours prior to launch. The crew members have been on board for some time now. Fiona Yurchikhin in the center seat, the Soyuz commander, and Jack Fisher to his left as the flight engineer for the Soyuz craft today. Here's an in-cabin view. You can again, Fyodor at the bottom of your screen, Jack Fisher at the top, and floating there just in front of Fyodor, you can see the it's a talisman that every Soyuz crew will float in front of them. It's actually a zero-G indicator. So once they're actually in orbit and they're experiencing microgravity, you'll see that start to float, and that's the crew's best signifier to see that they've made it into space, aside from, you know, no longer being atop a rocket. But for the crew members, it's mostly just kind of standing by now as we continue to count down 8 minutes, 10 seconds away from the planned launch. Sunny day there in Baikonur. As is typical during these spring launches. Just a light breeze about 73 degrees Fahrenheit as reported by NASA's Rob Navius, who's with friends, family, and other managers from NASA there just about a mile away from the launch pad. Again, the whole process today will take just under 9 minutes, about 8 minutes and 45 seconds from liftoff to when the crew is in orbit. We'll see the first stage, which consists of those 4 strap-on liquid-fueled boosters, and the core stage firing for the first several minutes. And then after that, those 4 strap-on boosters will drop away. The core stage will continue to fire. Once the second stage is complete with its work, the third stage will ignite, pushing the second stage away and carrying these astronauts into their preliminary orbit. And then following that, the Soyuz will detach and begin its 6-hour chase down of the International Space Station. And at this point in the countdown, the Soyuz first and second stages, those second stage engines ready for launch. Telemetry has been received from the rocket, indicating that all the primary and backup systems are ready for launch. Any moment now, we should be hearing that the launch key has been inserted. And yes, they do use an actual physical key down at the blockhouse there in Baikonur for the launch. Once that's inserted, it'll transition the launch sequence into automatic mode. And again, so far not tracking any issues. Everything just reported from the ground control teams there in Baikonur, nominal or normal. You'll hear the word nominal quite a bit. That's always a good indication. Everything going according to plan. 6 minutes, 5 seconds and counting until liftoff. Again, just got the confirmation the launch key has now been inserted, and that'll transition the launch sequence into its automatic mode. 5 minutes, 30 seconds and counting down now. Launch control should be reporting on the range shortly, expecting it to be clear and the Soyuz rocket ready to begin its journey.
Ground measurement system is activated by run 1 command. Combustion chamber nitrogen purge.
So now the combustion chamber nitrogen purge, so using nitrogen to remove any excess gases from the combustion chamber prior to the ignition. And again, when the engines ignite, we'll actually see them burn for several seconds before the vehicle actually lifts off. It's held in place by a series of launch locks that are essentially only holding the rocket up and in place by using the weight of the rocket itself. So once those engines are able to overcome that force and begin lifting the rocket, you'll see it begin ascending from the launch pad. But you will see those engines fire for several seconds before liftoff actually occurs. 4 minutes and counting until launch. At this point, the onboard system is getting switched to onboard control, and the cockpit displays for Commander Fyodor Chikin are all going to get activated. And the crew members, if they haven't already at this point, will always close their helmets, putting them on their suits, oxygen, no longer inside the cabin. And the fuel lines will also be purged along with the combustion chamber, as we just heard, that used using nitrogen just to fireproof them, removing any excess vapors of the fuel and the oxidizer. Still getting good in-cabin views of Yurchikhin and Fisher.
Oxidizer and fuel drain. And safety valves are closed.
And so all fuel lines going into the vehicle now terminated, the vehicle ready for launch.
Booster propellant tank pressurization initiated.
So the booster tank now being pressurized. This helps to optimize that flow of fuel and helps add some structural support to the rocket itself. 2 minutes, 18 seconds away from launch. One minute, 45 seconds away from launch. Still everything tracking well. Vehicle, the rocket, all in good shape. Getting good calls from Russian flight control teams down there in Baikonur in Kazakhstan. 1 minute, 30 seconds. And 1 minute and counting. Soyuz now going to switch over to internal power, and we'll have auto sequence start.
Liftoff. Timer initiated. Vehicle to internal power.
There's the call. The vehicle now on internal power. The first umbilical tower separating from the booster. Just about 20 seconds until launch. And there's the second umbilical separating. That signifies about 30 seconds or so from launch. You can see the engine starting to ramp up. The engine's firing, now building up to flight speed, and liftoff. Jack Fisher and Fyodor Yurchikhin on their way to the International Space Station. Vehicles cleared the tower. Getting good first stage performance. That Soyuz delivering about 930,000 pounds of thrust from those 4 strap-on engines in the core. Getting good performance calls, nominal or normal so far for the first stage, continuing to operate well. Again, a pretty clear day there in Baikonur, so getting great views of the rocket as it flies across the Kazakh sky.
And roll pitch yaw nominal. The crew is feeling good. Copy, Olympic.
So already 70 seconds since liftoff. The vehicle already moving at over 1,100 miles an hour. And continuing to get those good performance calls. You'll hear yaw, pitch, and roll, basically the orientation of the rocket. Want to hear nominal, and that's what we're hearing. Everything going well with the Soyuz so far. On board, you can see the crew members are still doing well. Again, Fyodor Yurchikhin on the bottom there. And then NASA's Jack Fisher on the top. And And we've gotten confirmation that the escape tower has been jettisoned and the first stage has been jettisoned. Again, those 4 strap-on boosters have completed their job, dropped away. The vehicle already at an altitude of about 28 statute miles. Soyuz rocket traveling at about 3,350 miles an hour. Thumbs up from Jack Fisher. Everything continuing to go great so far with this launch. The vehicle under the power now of the core stage, or the second stage, and that's going to continue to fire until about 4 minutes and 48 seconds into the flight. So another 2 minutes and change from now.
Second stage thrusters are operating nominally.
Getting confirmation the launch shroud has been jettisoned, so the Soyuz vehicle now exposed. Everything going right per the timeline so far with today's launch. Second stage continuing to perform great from all the reports coming in. Just past the 3-minute mark since liftoff. At this point, the Soyuz already traveling over 4,700 miles per hour.
And we have the controlled.
You can see sunlight pouring in now from a window just over Jack Fisher's shoulder. That now possible with that launch shroud being jettisoned.
Second stage thrusters are operating.
Everything performing as expected. That core stage of the Soyuz, 56 feet in length, 13.5 in diameter, has a single engine with 4 fuel chambers and provides between 178,000 and 222,000 pounds of thrust, depending on the altitude of the vehicle. And it burns for about 3 minutes and 28 seconds. It's going to burn until the 4-minute 43-second mark, and then it'll use what's known as a hot stage technique. So the third stage will actually ignite while the second's still burning. That's why, again, the Soyuz rocket has that open lattice-like structure in between the second and third stages, and we'll be seeing that shortly. Continuing to get good calls, 4 minutes, 12 seconds and counting since liftoff.
$260.
260 seconds. Parameters are nominal. 270 seconds. Standing by for Deca 2.
Just got confirmation the second stage separated from the Soyuz rocket, the third stage firing.
We have separation of the second stage. Yes, we confirm.
And confirmation the third stage engine has ignited and now powering the Soyuz into its preliminary orbit. That core booster separates at an altitude of about 105 miles. And the Soyuz now propelled by the single engine of the Soyuz's third stage, providing about 67,000 pounds of thrust, and is going to burn for the next 4 minutes and 2 seconds.
330 seconds. Third stage thrusters operating nominally.
$360.
360 seconds. YPR normal. SR pressure is 782. The crew is feeling good. Copy.
Getting reports the crew feeling good. 6 minutes, 30 seconds since liftoff. Everything continuing to go great again. The Soyuz's third stage now powering it.
390 seconds.
It's going to continue to operate until 8 minutes and 45 seconds post liftoff. So another 2 minutes under the third stage, and then the rocket's job will be done and the spacecraft will be in its preliminary orbit.
Четыреста
430 seconds.
Двигатель третьей ступени работает нормально.
Third stage thruster operating nominally.
Again, all the calls, everything going well so far with this morning's launch. Keep your eye on the dog floating just in front of Fyodor Yurchikhin. Again, that's going to be our zero-G indicator. So once they're in their preliminary orbit and they start experiencing microgravity, you'll see that start to float, just like everything else inside the vehicle, including the crew members themselves will shortly. We're 7 hours, 54 minutes since launch. Vehicle traveling in excess of 13,500 miles an hour. And again, as a reminder, once they are delivered into orbit, a series of commands that are pre-programmed will execute, and all of the antennas will deploy along with the solar arrays.
Stabilization nominal.
Third stage should be cutting off in just about 25 seconds.
Copy.
510 seconds. Everything is nominal.
And with the telltale jolt, you can see the third stage has cut off and separated. There's a great view of that dog. You can see it's floating now, so the crew members now exposed to that microgravity environment. With the third stage shut down and dropping it away, they're at an altitude of about 125 statute miles.
MCC Moscow. Yes, we read you loud and clear, Moscow. And we have third stage separation.
And getting a report all the external structures, so all those antennas being deployed as expected.
G4 has been issued. Copy. And G3.
Запуск. Давление за 780 давление.
The start pressure is 782.
856.
And BO pressure is 828. So G3 command and now R18. And we have the rendezvous format. Copy that. Command R17 has been issued. And we have the rendezvous display. And we copy, and we have video.
So again, we did get the report. All the external appendages have been deployed. They're doing all their final check, or their initial checkouts now. Was a nominal ascent, a normal flight into orbit. Again, all the antennas and the solar arrays have been deployed. So with that, the Soyuz orbiting at an altitude of about 143 miles by 118 miles, and that orbit's going to get slowly raised raised over the next 6 hours as they execute a series of orbital adjustment burns or delta velocity burns, basically to just raise themselves until they're on the same level as the International Space Station. Control of the spacecraft now overseen from the Russian Mission Control Center outside Moscow, and this that we're seeing right now are already getting telemetry down from the Soyuz spacecraft.
Thank you for providing us with such reliable equipment. We have course 1, copy. We have format 3 parameters. Stand by, please. We have to wait for the course test. Copy that. We have 17.5, 17.6, 968, 1.4, 1.3, and 325, and 326, 17.4, 17.4, 74, fuel 879.
878 сейчас.
Actually 878.
878 топливо.
878 for fuel, copy that.
Принято. Сейчас идет быстрое построение войска. Наблюдаем ВСК. Принято.
And we are going to OSK build, yes, copy that.
So again, what you're seeing right now is some live downlink from the vehicle itself. Again, it's in its preliminary orbit. All the antennas, the solar arrays deployed successfully, and they're going to now begin their chase down of the station. We'll stand by for a few moments as we will have some launch replays hopefully coming up for you soon. Again, a flawless ascent into orbit. Jack Fisher and Fyodor Yurchikhin now in space, and in just a couple of hours should be at the International Space Station.
Course 1 test nominal, no comments. Copy. Indicator checkout complete and no comments. Everything was nominal. Inaudible.
Давление СА сейчас 776. Разница за 5 минут.
SR pressure is now 776, and the 5-minute difference is 6 millimeters.
Готовы записать параметры орбиты.
We are ready to copy down the orbital parameters. Not yet. Stand by, please. We will report to you soon.
Олимпы, пометьте себе в 10:34 у нас закончится сеанс связи.
Olympe, at 10:34, the compass will be completed, and the next one will be at 11:45. And so, how copy? 10:34 is the end of the compass. The next compass is 11:45. And please don't forget to operate the COM assets, activate them and deactivate them. All right. Copy. So for the next compass, could you please prepare to do to perform step 1 at page 45. 11:48 will be the time of the IKV horizon sensors inhibit. Okay, copy Moscow. 11:45. 11:48.
Также пометьте себе время ТСР Олимпы.
Also, the TSR time is 11:07. It's the start, and 11:16 is the end. How copy, Олимпы?
11:07 начало.
11:07 start, and 11:16 is the end. Okay, that's TSR time. Copy. Inaudible.
Олимпы.
Олимпы, Moscow. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Fyodor and Jack. My congratulations with the successful ascent. Everything is nominal. So, everything was fine during the ascent. Everything deployed. Telemetry is also nominal. And so it's a short profile of the rendezvous. And please proceed as we agreed and discussed, and good luck to you. Thank you so much, Mr. Solovyov. Олимпы, all the structure appendages have been deployed. So the parameters are 88.7, inclination 51.6, and the altitude is 199 by 257. All right, copy. Now you can loosen your straps. Okay, copy Moscow.
Нет. Заданное время. Заданное время. Да.
Okay, Jack, the thermal sensors.
And again, we're just standing by for a couple of minutes. Should be bringing you some launch replays from that liftoff pretty soon. In the meantime, we are getting some pretty spectacular views of planet Earth from the International Space Station. That's a live view from one of the external cameras. In just a couple of hours, these cameras should hopefully be trained on the Soyuz spacecraft as it makes its final approach. We'll outline all those times for you in just a few moments, but again, stick around. We'll be bringing you those launch replays shortly. But for now, Fyodor Yurchik and Jack Fisher in space on their way towards the International Space Station.
1 minute till the end of the compass. Olympe, do you have any issues with the system operation? No, so far everything has been operating nominally. So the pressure is 777. The crew is feeling well. And please don't forget that the next compass is 11:45. Okay, 11:45. Copy that, Moscow.
Олимпы, до следующего сеанса связи.
Olympe, Moscow, so till the next compass.
All right, and as promised, those replays are coming up next, so we'll go ahead and get ready to close out our launch coverage. Before that, be sure to stick around as this Soyuz is not done. It's set to make its way to station in just a couple of hours, so just running through our programming real quickly. Again, up next is going to be the launch replays of flawless liftoff from Baikonur this morning here in Houston, but in the afternoon over in Baikonur, so that'll be immediately following. We'll have our post-launch video file at 4 a.m. All of these times are in Central. And then at 7:30, we'll resume our live coverage for docking, which is scheduled to take place at 8:23 a.m. Central. We'll then take a break following that docking and then come back on for hatch opening coverage. That's scheduled to start at 9:45 a.m. Central. Hatch opening targeted at 10:05 a.m. And once the crew's on board, they'll get a chance to speak with friends and family back in Baikonur, and then we'll go ahead and close that, and we'll have 5 crew members on board the International Space Station. And the final thing for today, 12:30 p.m., we'll do our post-docking video file, giving you a highlight reel of all of the day's events. So with that, a flawless launch, 2 crew members in orbit making their way towards the International Space Station, and we'll pick back up with them in just a couple of hours from now. So stick around for those launch replays and joining us back when we get ready for the docking. But for now, we will go ahead and sign off. This is Mission Control Houston.